Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is our Chess Stars program. My name is Sasha Starr, and I would like to introduce my panelists. And we'll start with Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you very much for having me on again.
Always glad to see you.
Yeah.
And of course, international arbiter, friend of mine, Vadim Tsipin. Welcome to the show, Vadim.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, Ken. Thanks for
Great
having
to
me.
see you. Now, I must admit that my title for this show, Chess as a Model of Peace, is a little bit artificial. I think that it's very difficult to imagine because chess is it's absolutely fantastic, incredible game. Actually, I have. Some of my friends believe that chess was brought from the outer space. The human beings
Yeah.
invent chess. So, exactly, and I do believe it's very difficult to figure out from exactly where from outer space and when it's happened and how the human being was associated with them and learn the game. But most likely that's the case. At least it's kind of a plausible explanation.
Actually, the real question is why is chess the smallest it's ever been in history? I mean, the game was invented as a game of four armies on a much bigger board, Chaturanga
Chaturanga.
in India, and
Yeah.
then Timur, the Lenk, played chess with armies of 11 or 10 squares on a side. That's Tamerlane in English. And there are various other forms of chess. They've all been bigger. Of course, the Arabians played chess without a powerful queen, but
Mhm.
so at least we have a more powerful army in a smaller space. But it is funny to me.
But you see, what's happened is that it's beautiful game. Sometimes, of course, there is a great meaning of strategy and tactics. And but what's happened in a game? Let's see if you're working on your strategic plan, and then you figured out how to do the tactical little combination, which helps you to provide your strategic ideas in. All of a sudden, your opponent picks up the king and hits you right into your head.
Mm.
And at the end of all your strategic ideas and tactical plans and so on. So that's exactly happened to right now in Ukrainian and Russian war. The
Oh yeah.
Putin, apparently, he completely changed the nature of some, if he has some grievances or some problems, instead of discussing them and find a solution, if there is something really to discuss and find solution, he just well, actually, if he would take a king and hit somebody, especially some of
No,
his
he's got a pretty
assistants.
rabid bishop as well. I mean, Hero gave a really fire and brimstone speech, the second
Yeah.
half of the speech, and I'm
So
disgusted.
now, um, tell
Mm.
me if I'm wrong in my thinking is that it's becoming more and more obvious that Putin simply cannot win this war, not on a military field. So and also he has a side note because he has to finish everything one way or another by May 9th when he
Yes.
want to have his military parade in Moscow. Well, he wanted to have two, one in Moscow, one in Kiev. Kiev is very questionable by now,
Yes.
unless he would like to rent some kind of a hall or some facilities in Kiev and have his affair over
Malden
there.
and Bucha.
I don't think it would be easy to do under the circumstances. So he is in side note right now, and so most likely he would have to find some kind of traitors and start punishing them, and that would explain to Russian people why they were not successful in the war because of the traitors. Vadim,
Oh,
have you heard about this theory? What do you think about it?
Yes, it looks like this is the development that's known to every type of the dictatorships that we've seen through the history. When a small victorious war that a dictator unleashes in order to boost his popularity among his people doesn't go according to the plan, and they never go according to the plan, of course. When he feels the resistance from the free people he heinously attacks, he starts to look for culprits, for people he can accuse of treason or find other reasons, because the whole model of any dictatorship is that the dictator itself is a figure beyond reproach and can never be blamed for anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ken, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I don't want to prognosticate how it plays out. I do think that the outcome of the battle for town beginning with S between Izium and South of
Severodonetsk.
Izium, yeah,
Severodonetsk.
Serenadets, yeah, is that's going to be important. So, and that will tell us the outline of what to expect in this month.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely. And this is, yes, sorry. Just want to piggyback on what Ken said, right? Regardless of what these games of bulldogs under the carpet, quoting Churchill's famous expression, happen in Kremlin, it is the Ukrainian army and the free world helping Ukraine that will decide the fate of this war, and that will move, sort of move the needle of this. And that's why it's so crucial for people in the West to continue pressure, because we've seen already the cracks in the EU and NATO alliance. For example, elections in Hungary brought again a person that's trying to block some of the most effective measures that could have helped Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, Orban, yeah, is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
And there's an election coming up in France that will be indicative as well. So,
Is there a way to expel from NATO a country like Hungary because of the changing in political system?
you don't want to be that unstable, okay?
Mhm.
Unless they've done something really to violate the charter of the alliance, they stay in.
Yeah, most likely.
So,
Yeah, Ken, please continue.
well, so I'll just show you something. If I share my screen, just a diagram of what we're talking about. So this is the share. Now let's see what's going on. Oh, here we go. Okay, now I have to go to my other thing. So this is Mick Ryan, who's a retired Australian military expert in general, or major general maybe. So he posted today on what the Russians will try to do tomorrow and what the Ukrainian defenders will do. And he says there are really two options for the Russians. One is to try to go toward Dnipro and trap the Ukrainian army this way. But he thinks that will be too difficult, that they just can't maintain the logistics, not to mention the fact that Ukraine is equal number forces. So it seems to be trying instead is a push this way, narrower, and the city with S is along this way, and just try to force this salient where the Ukraine has been defending in Donetsk and Luhansk, and make them pop it out toward Dnipro. So that's the thing. Yeah, Slovyansk. That's the name of what I'm trying to figure out. So that's anyway the focus of the fighting seems to be.
Well, it seems to me that with each day, the Russian army is getting weaker and weaker. Their supply are running very low. The morale of soldiers is very low. There was somebody I heard told me on Russian site Rambler. There was don't remember interview or a story where 60 people from school army refused to go and fight to Ukraine. So maybe it's just the beginning, but the war is people now start to hear in Russia more and more about the war, and not only just the war, but the way it's being fought, all the atrocity. And on the other hand, Ukrainian armies each day getting stronger and stronger because of volunteers from 52 countries are still coming. And now, finally, the heavy armaments start to come from at least the Czech Republic, Poland, England. They have already heavy artillery for anti-ship missiles as well. So it seems to me that they're playing very smart games. They're just getting stronger and stronger, and they're ready for the offensive, but they don't start it. They want Russian to move first and
Yeah,
expose themselves. So
right.
it seems to me that Putin, he would give up a lot to come back into February 23rd. I really think so. Vadim,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think that we all hope and pray that the new developments could break the spine of Putin's war machine. But the tragic thing is that every day that the Russian forces stay on Ukrainian soil, they kill innocent people and commit atrocities that are almost unparalleled in the modern history. And as it's been exposed for the whole world in Bucha, Gostomel, Vorzel, Borodianka, and other towns that were occupied by the Russians. They kill indiscriminately, and essentially it's a scorched earth policy. Unfortunately, it's the policy that we've seen from the Russian army before, the policy that essentially became its doctrine in Afghanistan, in Chechnya, in Syria. Just let me remind for maybe younger viewers here that according to the official estimates, during 15 years of the Afghan war, the Russian casualties were estimated at about 16,000 people, whereas Afghan casualties were 2 million people. Why? Because the Russians erased the whole villages, right? Their doctrine was to kill everyone and declare them a combatant. And this is what's happening here. And uh, that's why it's so important that the true friends of Ukraine not wait for any move from the NATO as a body or as the United Nations as a very slow moving body, but act to help. And let's face it, what's actually happening, it's not uh, a conflict, quote unquote, between two countries. It's a full blown regional war. We have two aggressor states, which are Russia and Belarus. We have a victim of aggression, which is Ukraine. And many people don't realize, but the only country that's actually fighting on the side of Ukraine is a member of NATO. It is Turkey that's made unilateral decision to close the Bosphorus Straits according to the Montreal Convention. And by doing this bravely and on its own, without any consultations with NATO partners, it blocked the whole naval armada that Russia planned to bring from the Mediterranean in order to attack Odessa, Nikolaev, and maybe to occupy the remaining part of the Ukrainian south. So this is these actions, and of course the heavy armaments that Sasha just mentioned, that should make a difference in the situation of the front.
Very well. I think that Ukraine is doing quite well. Now, speaking about the atrocities in Bucha and Borodyanka and others, all the Russian fighters who did that, they were all fighting in Syria. So they obviously were trained there. They just implemented whatever they've done in Syria, they've just repeated there. But this is incredible. It's a war crimes, it's a genocide. It doesn't matter how we call it. See, the thing is that unfortunately there is no possibility for peaceful solution of that unless Putin will just take his army and just walk away, which will
Yeah.
not happen either. So there is no peaceful solution. They're too far apart.
And what happens with Crimea? I mean, Ukraine is not going to.
Well, Zelensky offered that he could leave with Crimea for another 15 years and then decide whether to have a referendum or
Okay.
do something. Just put it on a back burner. But you see, the problem is now that, in my opinion, the war will be decided in the next probably 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There will be a decisive battle and the winner of that battle will take it all. If
Mhm.
Ukraine will lose this battle, then it's just as bad as unconditional surrender. If Ukraine wins this battle, then Russians would have to leave, and
Yeah.
then there will be a international tribunal and so on. There is another thing. What I heard is that all the names of the soldiers and officers who did this in Bucha and Berdianka and other places, they all know now to Ukrainian army, and they're discussing to send sort of commanders like Israel did after Munich 72, and just exterminate all the perpetrators one by one, whether they're in Russia or doesn't matter where. Oh, we'll see how that develops. I mean, it's probably not going to be officially announced anyway, but such plan is same as Azov. Actually, they made it open that they will liquidate Putin one way or another by the end of May.
Hmm.
See,
Think so. Wow. It'd be uh, devoutly to wish. It is amazing how social media is making the revelations much more immediate, such as the
that's
term of
right. That's right.
intercepting a phone call or speech between two Russians. That was
Oh, do you know, Ken? Of course, Vadim, you know the very popular politician in Russia, Zhirinovsky.
oh yes, he died. Yes.
Yeah, but listen, what's happened? A day before he died, he had a speech somewhere, and he said that Russia will win. If not, I'll die.
Oh,
I
he was
guess.
battling COVID. I thought I read that he died of long exposure to COVID. Wow, I did not see that. Um, let
Yeah,
me
but with
go.
exposure to COVID, he could still live for another few months, maybe even years. But
Oh wow. Okay. Let me see if one of my friends had posted something in Russian that he said. I wonder if that's it. Um, because the Eurasia director of OECD is an old friend or
oh, I
uh,
see.
ex-husband of an old friend, I guess. So let me just see if I can, because he tweeted something in Russia and I didn't bother to Google Translate it because it was on my phone. Um, and he, tweeted something terrible that Vladimir Solovyov said about uh, Ukraine. But anyway, let's see now. Um, let's see. So I sorry, it's going to take you a little while. That's okay. You move on. If I find it, I find it.
Oh, by the way, Vladimir Solovyov, he has three very expensive villas in Italy around Lake Como. So one of them was burned completely just day before yesterday. So he has now two villas. Still not bad. They're
Yeah,
all
yeah. Sorry, Sasha.
go ahead.
I'd like I'd like just to continue the line of thoughts that Ken presented so eloquently, saying about he was talking about the role of social media. Absolutely, I would also mention the big data because this is uh, the matching element that is crucial and what is new in uncovering the truth about this war. And free press in the Western world has doing a great job matching available data from different sources and proving beyond any doubt that Russian excuses or fabrications don't hold water. For example, the investigation held by the New York Times, which pinpointed
The
the
satellite, yeah.
corpses on Bucha streets and matched that with satellite images, or uh, the attribution given to videos and audio recordings made in certain occupied areas. This is great. The same thing that you mentioned, names of people who were quartered in cities and towns where atrocities were committed. The same thing that Belarusia freedom fighters supplying the Ukrainian side with lists of people who were looting Ukrainian towns and then shipping the looted equipment or goods to their hometowns. So these whole lists are available to the Ukrainian side, and these people are already getting calls from Ukrainian security services, which is a great type of a moral pressure. But,
Oh,
so yes, technology, openness, transparency, and of course, free press and the public pressure on elected representatives. I think it all helps.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, you see what's happening in Russia. Putin built something
Mhm.
like a castle, in like a fortress rather, that information cannot freely flow, and people are. It makes me so upset that normal people that few years ago you could discuss something meaningful or so on, today they are uh, completely state of zombie, really. They can't talk normally. They avoid, um, like just a couple of days ago, somebody talked to Nava from Moscow. Just wanted to say her happy birthday, and all of a sudden, he asked her about if it's true that in Canada everybody is for Ukraine, and she told him, "Yeah, of course. What would you
Yes.
expect?" And he was so surprised, and he said, "Oh my God! Well, it's not everything so simple as you might think. It's much more complicated." So that was sort of his way to to. So of course, he didn't want to go much farther than that, but it was, to me, it was clear indications that he is pro-Putin, and he listens to Channel One from morning to late night, and it's just sad. But on the other hand, there are now two thoughts among Russian intellectuals. A lot of them left, and they're no longer in Russia. Somebody left for England, Israel, United States, Germany, just many other countries. And there are two major school of thoughts. Is there something as a collective responsibility for Russians for everything what's just happened, or
Mhm.
only those people who actually participated in these atrocities? How? What's the right way to answer this question, Ken? What do you think?
I think the collective responsibility way is established as the only pattern that can be sensibly carried forward. Otherwise, you're making fine distinctions where there aren't any. So, I mean,
You,
you can make some exceptions for people who expressed righteous opposition, but otherwise,
Vadim, what do you think?
I would make a distinction between being legally responsible and being convicted in the court of law and a
mhm,
shared responsibility. I would use the term shared responsibility. Everyone who stays silent and did not clearly indicate his or her position now, after 42 days of this unjust war of aggression, after the atrocities in Bucha and Mariupol and other towns, everyone shares responsibility for Putin's crimes, whereas legal responsibility shall only be allocated by a properly established court or tribunal.
Yeah, well, remember when it was a Nuremberg tribunal in Germany in 1946? Uh, well, you remember that there were 20 indictments, and actually the executions, almost, I don't remember, I think 11 was hanged, and some eight more had different type of judgments. But I'm not saying that all Germans had to be responsible, because otherwise you would have trial where you would put on trial 50 million people. No, that was not the case. So only the major perpetrators, they were, of course, on trial and got judgments. And the other, but they all shared responsibilities. Remember how much reparations they had to pay, including Israel. And so I think something will happen to Russia once all this horrible thing will be over. What interestingly that I read today, a material prepared by, of course, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Boris Akunin, a well-known Russian writer, and I think Sergei Guriev, who's a well-known business analytic. So they started a site, I forgot the exact name, it's like New Russian or True Russia, I think True Russia or so on. What is, of course, they want to help Ukrainians, so on, but their major thought about that was that right now in the West, the words like Russia and Putin became almost like swearing words. And what they're trying to prove that not Russians, all Russians are evil. There are some people that should not be put on the same level as Putin and his cronies. And that's why they started this project. And of course, their names speak a lot by itself. Well, I have to study their documentation to get a little bit more convinced, but at least probably at least reasonable way to look at these things, because just the thought that all Russian people, especially those who left Russia, doesn't matter a month ago, a year ago, or 35 years ago, just because they're Russians, they have to be guilty by association. That's not always right. But there are consequences in either case. Vadim, what do you think about this?
Absolutely, I would agree, and I would continue in learning the lessons from the post-war Germany. Exactly as you said, after the major Nuremberg trials, there were auxiliary trials in many towns and cities, and the United States have developed a whole legal foundation, a real denazification program, not the false pretend denazifications that Putin is trying to talk about, but there were legally set criteria: major criminals, auxiliary criminals, people who were accomplices, and innocent. 5 people. We can look it up online. It's all documented because American prosecutors have done a great job establishing the legal foundations that was used as a template later for the wars in Congo and Biafra, for the genocide in Rwanda and the former Yugoslavia wars, right? So there are already tools that would allow in the post-war situation to properly assess and allocate the blame and the guilt and make sure that no one who is responsible for instigating the war, and these are not only people in the military or in the government, but these are the same propaganda figures that some of whom you were just talking about today, that this blame is allocated, apportioned properly, and the punishment is made. And this is what makes us different. Russia uses summary executions to kill people whom they consider opponents without any trial. We have centuries of law and order, and we believe in the rule of law. Habeas corpus, we have different legal procedures, and I am confident that everything will be done and successfully, and no one will go unpunished.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Yeah, sorry, Ken, go ahead.
I was just going to close with one interesting chess detail.
Okay, good.
In Title Tuesday, yesterday, Russians and Ukrainians played together. And Alexander Bortnik of Ukraine won the early tournament, defeating Dmitry Andreikin and Vladimir Fedoseev in the last two rounds.
That's great.
And he also scored well in the second tournament, defeating Alexei Dreyev in the last round. So they allowed Ukrainians and Russians to play together. So that's interesting.
Well, obviously, it's not official FIDE tournament. It's something different. Actually, I got the results of the last European Chess Championship. there were no Russians among the winners at all.
Yeah, not along the winners. Just one IM
Yeah.
did well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but they were all performing not so well. Well, we'll see. I'm very curious to see the candidate tournament, how it will be organized, whether the Karyakin indeed will be banned from playing. Because everything can change in the last minute, as we all know. Sometimes it
Yeah, although
happens.
Karyakin did some sort of stunt with that Emil Satotsky report, and I haven't got down to the bottom of it, but it makes things worse apparently this week. So,
Okay, we'll follow up on all the news, and I would like to thank you both. Really, thank you very, very much for participating in our program today, and I'm looking forward to see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.